In a panic, we're in over our heads again. We know this is what we're meant to do. So we wake up, put our feet on the floor, go and conquer the day like a warrior, like warriors. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business and life. That's right, that's right. No need to panic anymore. We got lots of support and an army of warriors by our side. We fight the good fight when we unite. We fight the good fight when we unite. So you can relax on the important.
Hey, everybody. I am Sondra, and welcome to the Coffee Chat Show. I am so excited to get to co-host with the amazing Peter, and we are talking today about, okay, too many screens going on. We're talking about sustainable business practices. So we want to get our businesses up and running, but we want to keep them running. And we have some new faces joining us today. And we'll let Peter talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited about today. I was just having an amazing conversation with Megan earlier today about business practices, and she didn't even know it was a topic today. So that's amazing. So how are you today, Peter?
You know what? Absolutely brilliant. I tell you what, the last week has been almost like closing a chapter, but opening up a new chapter, especially with the night program and all the students in that have always been in the background, and we've all been talking about them, and they have just not even known about it. So we've been talking about them, and now they are slowly starting to join our space, so we can actually look forward to having a lot of those students step into the space. And I'm telling you now, you guys are in for an absolute treat, because these guys have been incredible. They've been absolutely brilliant, which actually brings it right back to the topic that we're talking about. You know, creating sustainable business practices is, you know, for me, if you don't get it right the first time, you're going back to ground zero and starting all over again. So this is something you need to get right the first time. If you don't get it right, tear it down, build it again. And that's where I love this form of community. I'd love to see some hands going up in the background. To add to this conversation would be great. But this form of community, when you're surrounded by people that have the same values, they have the same thought processes, they like to do things the right way, and they all are experts in different fields, which means that you get to communicate with everyone, and setting up best practice becomes easier because you're surrounded by the right people. That for me has probably been one of the most important things moving forward, is definitely been surround yourself with the right people and create a space where best practice is your foundation. That's been really important.
I love that. Sorry. I love that, Peter. Yeah, that's why our motto is coffee first, business later, because we want those relationships. So let's start with, I think, a hopefully simple question, but what is your definition of sustainable? Anybody? Anybody want to tell me their definition of sustainable? I'm going to speak today, I promise. Oh, come on now. Peter, what's your definition of sustainable? You kind of said that already by talking about do it right the first time, so on and so forth.
would be that you create something in such a way that it sees you through the whole journey, that it doesn't fall apart when you're halfway through. It's like losing a wheel. It's like doing a wheelie on a motorcycle and then watching your front wheel disappear and going, oops. You either learn to ride on the back wheel or you crash. It's like losing a car, like a wheel on a car. You're driving and something goes by and you're like, oh, look, somebody's wheel. And it's actually yours. So it's one of those spaces where you build it right the first time. You put it under pressure and you test it. Very important. Because if you don't, then it will fall apart. And it'll fall apart when you least expect it. And it'll fall apart where it can actually do damage. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to create a space where it is so sustainable that it works continuously. That would be my version of sustainable. But I didn't see whose hand went up first, but I'm thinking it was Hendrik number one. Hendrik, you want to add to this conversation?
Sure. I really like what you say about testing, Peter. When Ethan and I started the business 2 years ago, we said we want to do this in such a way so that it becomes a family legacy. It is something I want to impart my knowledge and also profit from it while I'm still here and perhaps, solve my pension issues, but also to leave something and to leave some sort of legacy and something for Ethan to take forward. And therefore, the sustainability of this has been our number one concern from the word go when we've started talking about this. And you're right about testing. We are so eager to jump into things and get things started because we live in an instant society with takeaways that are quick and easy to consume. So we don't take the time to actually figure out what works and what doesn't. We have an idea of what we want to do. We jump in and hope somebody will buy it without actually taking the time and the effort to go and figure out what is it that I can do, what do I want to do, and how do I marry this with a potential client, and how much money can I make out of this? And how do I keep on doing this in such a way so that even when I'm no longer there, the whole thing keeps on going quite automatically. I've been reading obviously a lot because I've never been an entrepreneur. I was an artist and an actor, and I'm a creative soul that can write things and all that. So but I'm always also a lifelong learner. So reading is really important. I read somewhere, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said there were 4 stages to the business. The first stage I remember was really you throw yourself in, you try everything, and somehow you see a bit of light. And then the second stage is that you need to automate aspects of this so you are not sucked into this business, and that you actually have a job and you're not a business owner. I don't want to have a job. I want to own a business and travel the world and work maybe 4 hours a week and live well. So for us, and that's really where Ethan and I now, we've been testing quite a bit. We've been figuring out works and where there's a need. And we are starting to slowly but surely automate large aspects of this because, when you work one-on-one with clients, there's only so much information you could do, you could share in a short space of time. And obviously there's a book people can refer to, but also to put them through their paces and through some of the steps that they need to continue through to get to the end product of launching a podcast. There's a large part of that we can automate. Take a bit of work in the beginning, but once it's up and running, you need to refresh it only every so few years. So that's really where we are in terms of making this sustainable, is taking a little bit of a step back, putting a lot of automation in there, but also keeping the human aspect. Obviously, that is such an important part. And then from there, for us, it'll be team building, surrounding ourselves slowly but surely with the right people that can be trusted, that have vision, that believe in the same things that we believe in and have the same passions that we have. Whether they have university degrees or fresh off the street, we don't care, as long as you have the passion and the skill come. We can work together and really do something special. And that's ultimately, I think, how you make something sustainable. in my humble opinion. Hendrik from Baird Media, we help people to start podcasts.
Love that, love that, love that, Hendrik. Like you said, people get too quick sometimes, and you got to take a step back and figure out what's working and not what's working. For sure, been guilty. Year 4, and I still, are repeating some lessons. It's for sure. For sure. Love that. Love that. Thank you for your definition. Brian, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Does that mean it's my turn? All right. First, focusing on sustainable, the word sustainable. I just wrote a bunch of words, and I think some of it was shared already, but I'll just reinforce. It's whatever the practice is, it's simple, it's effective, there's evidence that it works. It can be automated or become automatic as like a habit. Scalable was also mentioned as well, and fun. You can gamify your daily practices that are not super sexy, but create a score sheet, a dashboard, something that you can be accountable to. I'm a part of a group right now where we take screenshots of our scoreboard and we send it to each other and cheer each other on and stuff. So something where you can measure your activity and what's actually happening is also a sustainable way to handle all the parts, especially when you're solo and not yet replacing yourself out of wearing multiple hats. I'm in the health and wellness space, lifestyle design, fulfillment space as well. One thing I will share as well is your number one asset is sitting its butt in that chair right now. So yes, it's important to get enough sleep, eat right, move your body, all that stuff, but also creating practices around managing your mental health and mindset, your emotional health, and your spiritual health. So those can be unpacked in a whole 3-hour seminar each, but I'll just throw it out there for now to consider managing your number one asset. And I'm Brian DeCastro, health and lifestyle coach and Reiki master, founder of Domestic Athlete, helping you navigate your life transformation journey.
Brian, you never cease to amaze me. I reckon what you've said that actually really caught me was the least sustainable you can be is not looking after yourself. If you want to be not sustainable, don't look after yourself. It'll work, guaranteed 100%. You will not be sustainable. But looking after yourself and creating that environment where you hold yourself accountable, but at the same time you look after yourself is extremely important. I couldn't highlight that enough. It is actually so important that I recall inviting Brian into our space to create that space for our entrepreneurs, because looking after yourself is extremely important as an entrepreneur. And we all know that. Some of us have experienced burnout. Burnout is not sustainable. So look after yourselves. That's great advice. Megan, I would love to draw you into this conversation. See what you have to say.
Thanks, Peter. And yes, I just have to climb onto the back of what Brian was saying as well. Definitely looking after number one, and definitely fun. I mean, that is the space that I love to play in. So I absolutely have to agree with Brian on that. But I also just wanted to throw in the concept that, it's about trial and error. And I don't think any one of us knew exactly what our sustainable business would look like or is going to look like at the end of the day. But it's really attached to your concept of what you want and why you started your business, ultimately. So it's very attached to your needs, your vision as a business owner. And I think it's important to remember that what's important here is that your business works for you. You're in business for a reason. You've got a vision. You want to make a profit. You want to be able to sustain yourself, your family, your lifestyle, whatever that might be. And you will know when it's working, right? When it's become sustainable, when it's gotten to the point where you feel relaxed enough to be able to go away for that week from the office and your team runs the space for you, or where you can literally, as a solopreneur, say, I'm taking the day off because I need the time out. But the business still carries on. Things happen in the background. Brian mentioned some automation, all of that kind of thing happening, or Hendrik mentioned that as well. So I think it's important just to remember that your idea of sustainable might not be the next person's, but it's important to stay true to that. So that's Megan from Paradox Rocks Communications in Cape Town. Thank you.
I love that. I love that, Megan. And that's why I wanted to do people's definitions, because everybody has their, there's the Webster definition, but everybody's definitions are different. I do a talk on your definition of success, because everybody's success looks very different. How it works in business, what's worked in business. If you would have told me I was going to co-host a live YouTube show at the beginning of the year, I would have laughed. And yet here I am. So, and I feel successful in doing it. So, I think that's very much part of it. Making sure that we know what our definitions are, our whys, our reasons. My why was my grandchildren, and now I get to take off, like you said, and go to the mall with them 2 weeks ago when they were in town. So in the middle of a Thursday. So definitely knowing your why and your definition is extremely important. Love that. Love that, Megan. Hendrik's number 2. Welcome to the Coffee Chat Show. I'd love to hear your definition as a newer entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for welcoming me into your space. So for me, there are 2 words that are actually triggered by this, which is number 1, consistency, and also accountability. For one to be a sustainable business, I think if you keep on doing the same thing, being consistent in doing either the right or wrong thing, that's what is going to actually make or break your business. So for you to be sustainable, I believe you need to be consistent in making sure that you give the either services that are above par or always on point. And more often than not, that actually gets also distracted due to the fact that once you become consistent in something, people tend also to be complacent, because once you get used to doing the same thing over and over again, you take certain things for granted. So for me, those were the words that were triggered by, or that's what actually it means for me to be sustainable. That's Hendrik from Teresano Earth Movers in Mohlahlo.
That was brilliant for a debut on the Coffee Shop Conversation show. Hendrik, I had no doubt. We've had the privilege of watching Hendrik grow on an entrepreneurial journey that was hosted through Mancosa. That's been absolutely brilliant. And Hendrik is just one of many students that are stepping into this space. But make no mistake, Hendrik is not he's not a fresh lamb. Hendrik has been in business for quite some time, and he's making some big changes in his space, which is absolutely brilliant. So Hendrik, it is such a privilege to have you here. Almost feel like wearing a noddy badge, and just, it's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Carolin, the change maker.
Hello. Nice to be here. So yeah, I really like this concept that comes from the kind of indigenous knowledge systems of the when something is sustainable, it works for the next 7 generations. So always thinking of this idea of the next 7 generations. I think it can work in many ways. I mean, obviously, environmentally, that's like a really good idea to think of the next 7 generations. But also, I think in terms of business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the next 7 generations in terms of people after you, but you can interpret that in different ways. But really to think like far ahead, not just to the next stage, but to think much further ahead and to think, is what I'm doing actually making sense in the long, long run? And will it actually, be possible to keep doing that for a long, long time. Because so many business models we have these days, they are dependent on things that are finite. They're going to run out, and they can't. There's a limit to how much they can grow or how long they can be sustained for. So I think that's one thing that I think is really important, and I feel that the culture and the purpose and the impact are things that really have a lot to do with that as well, with sustainability. Like, what kind of culture am I creating at my company? And is that culture, does that allow us to work in a sustainable way, or is it a culture that will lead to burnout and things like that? So the culture is really a big issue there to be considered. And for the consistency, I do agree with you, Hendrik, that there's a lot to be said for consistency, and at the same time, there's also a lot to be said for flexibility. So I think it's like one of those things where you need both. You need the one thing and the opposite of it at the same time, because if you're only consistent, you're not going to be able to react to a lot of changes and so on. So there's definitely a lot to be said for consistency, and you need a lot of consistency in business. And you also need a lot of flexibility in business. So Carolin, culture alchemist and chief adventurer at Women Who Impact, currently in Zanzibar.
Love that, Carolin. Yeah, it's that. I always say I don't know if there's a true sense of being balanced. Brian will probably smack me for saying that, but seriously, I feel like something always has to be a little higher than the other, which is actually why I started a business, for that flexibility, that so I can be where I need to be when I need to be there, and call an audible in the middle of the day. That's the reason, for sure. So that's one of the reasons I started a business, was for that. And that was one of my whys, was the flexibility of not working for somebody to tell me where I need to be and when I need to be there. Yes, I have clients. Yes, I still have to do that, but for sure. Okay, so next question is, what are your best practices to keep your business going? A lot of us have been in business for a while. So what are your best practices? Let's share those on YouTube so people will understand, so people can get some tips and tricks on what's working for us or what has worked for us. I know people have best practices. Anybody want to raise their hand? Come on, my loves. Let's go. Hendrix. Oh, okay. Megan beat you to it. Megan, go for it. What's your best? What are some of your best practices?
Okay, I think, Sondra, for me, the most important thing here was making sure that I get my processes and systems in place. Figuring out firstly what those needed to be, right? Because you don't automatically know what you need, how you need it, and when you need it. It's sort of, you find your way as you go along. But I think another thing that now, 3 years in, is really starting to set in with me. And I know I think Peter might be going, oh, rich of Megan to be saying this, but the simplicity aspect really comes into play in a big way at some point. And yeah, we just tend to overcomplicate things, I think. And at some point you realize that it is not sustainable being all complex and complicated about everything. And you get to a point where you go, something's got to give or something's got to give way, right? And so for me, it's been about shaving the fluff and the fancy off the edges, getting a lot more simplistic, but also making sure that I have processes and systems that, at least on the base level, can move me from one phase of dealing with my business, for example, marketing, into the onboarding a client smoothly, into processing a client through and nurturing them through the journey with me. So I think for me, those have been the most important to date. All right. Thank you, Megan from Paradox Rocks Communications.
Oh, nice. Megan, simplicity was the one word that really, really stuck out for me. I remember a conversation that we had a while ago, because Megan, your brain is just wild. And we absolutely, absolutely love it. But sometimes you just got to jump in and do something, and then pick it apart and simplify it, because something that is simple becomes very easy to turn into a process. But when it's complicated, it becomes this, how do I turn this into I don't understand, how does it fit, how does it work? So your ability in your space to do what you've done has been mind-blowing. Absolutely, absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
I am not aware of whose hand was up next, but I will go back to Hendrik number 1. Let's bring you to the conversation.
Thank you so much. Talk about simplifying. When Ethan and I started out, I think we had something like 45 products. We now have 1. Like, no, let's just do 1 and do it properly. It's like we can't do anyway. So the way we've learned how to do things, and also things we've learned recently through also extensive reading again, is regular evaluations. Ethan and I do a 3-monthly evaluation. We either go sit in a coffee shop somewhere and somewhere out in a park or wherever, away from our regular surroundings, and we just talk about various aspects of the business. Obviously, we have a bit of agenda and things we talk through, make some long-term decisions there, strategic decisions. We call them our strategic meetings. But as much as they are strategic, they're also evaluations to see what has worked and what didn't. And then as part of that, something we recently read about is to take what the guy called white space, a guy called, not his name, white space, where you can just go and just let your mind go free around your company and just imagine the wildest scenarios and just try and, think not even a box in that white space where everything and anything is possible, and use that as a creative space for yourself as well, which I found a really interesting thing. So that's also something that I set time for myself at certain times during the week and go like, look, I'm just going to go sit under the trees and just think about all of this and just see where my mind goes with it and what ideas come up, which are usually very interesting. Another tip recently I learned, and we're starting to do now as our processes are starting to unfold, is to write everything down so that when we employ somebody would know how to do it. And we, of course, also know how to do it because we've been doing it for all this time. And then something which is really interesting, and all entrepreneurs here, we're talking about the one major thing that nobody's been talking about yet, which is cash flow and money and income, and making this a long-term sustainable business by having the moolah to grow it and build it. And that's also something that Ethan and I are really getting on top of really knowing exactly where our money is going to and where it's coming from and where it needs to come from, and keeping a close eye on it. I learned, they said, if you end up with more than you had, then you're doing well. So I think we're slowly but surely starting on that process. So those are my little tips that from my experience. Thank you. Hendrik from Baird Media.
Love that, Hendrik. 2 things. The 90-day review is so important. You do not want to wait until the end of the year and go, what in the world went wrong? And it went wrong in the first 90 days and you could have fixed it. Very, very important to review. The minimum of 90 days, I say monthly, but if you can do 90 days, I think it's so important that I actually create a workshop around it. So that's how important I feel that is. And review everything: cash flow, processes, who's on your team, where the gaps are, what your systems are. Are they working or they're not working? Because there's always so many systems coming out. There might be something that's a little more efficient. So I love that, Hendrix. And white space is extremely important. I love my creative entrepreneurs. And so they need that outlet of like that creative brain outlet to get that out of there so they can refocus, which is why we do brain dumps to keep it all over our head. Yes, I love everything you said. But I could talk forever. Brian, come on in on the conversation.
Thank you. 3 things come to mind right now. Tracking, make it simple, easy, and fun. I track daily and I score up at the end of the week with my team, and just make it simple, whether it's a spreadsheet, whatever, just really simple. There's times where you're having rough days too, and if you're not tracking, you just go back and track the things that have happened. And you can feel a lot better when you realize that you actually were up to some stuff and got it done. The second thing is accountability. and getting in the reps on the right things. So when you're accountable to other people, they're going to check in on the things that you don't like doing. Either you hired someone to do those things or you're getting them done. So that's another part as well. But a big part, which is massively in the space of where I work, is in process. And I'll just focus on one area right now. For example, the morning routine. In my process in the morning is I connect with myself first. I connect with my dream and the source of my power before I start connecting with the outside world. If you wake up and just start reacting to emails, things that are pinging on your phone, social media, whatever, it could get you off to a really crappy start to your day, and you'll be on somebody else's agenda and trying to use life force to get back on track. So for me, I've learned more than ever to have a morning practice that gets me connected and dialed in. Then I pick up my phone and start reaching out or connecting with whoever else is important in my journey. So those have been critical for me this summer, and especially in the last, believe it or not, 30 days of producing some results that have come up recently. So those are my main things, at least that's coming up right now. I'm Brian DeCastro, holistic coach and Reiki master with Domestic Athlete.
Oh, absolutely incredible. I'm loving how this is all interconnected. You know, we all have a different perspective on a different topic as to how it works, but, you know, in reality, there are so many different things that weave together to create that sustainability. You know, whether we are tracking our finances, or whether we are looking after ourselves, or whether we are, you know, there are so many different aspects to it. And I love the fact that we've got so many different characters here that have got different bits of advice and opinions that we can put them all together and create something that becomes sustainable. And whether that's automating processes, or whether that's understanding your finances, or, you know, all those things, especially the finances. Finances are information, and the more information you have, the more of a correct choice and decision you can make moving forward, which creates sustainability. But I like how everything comes together. You know, it's not just one thing that creates that sustainability. It's a combination of all of it. And because we're all in the same space, we can, there is that accountability. We have each other. And that, for me, is what creates real sustainability, with real accountability and real support, which is a thing of beauty in my eyes. Lesetja, let's bring you in on this conversation.
Thanks, Peter. Brian, you mentioned something, keeping it simple. There's something called KISS, KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. I don't know if that's what it means, but I think it's something like that. So keeping it simple, it's absolutely, you know, it will help you not to burn out, because it's simple, it's straightforward. You've got it. And I liked also what you said about connecting with yourself first before you go and connect with the outside world. For me, that's also very important. But what I was going to bring into the conversation is one of the practices are to be honest in your business dealings. It doesn't help for you to go out there cheating people, doing business, knowing that whatever you're getting is not yours. It's you cheating. And I'm going to bring in an example of your franchise stores that are doing people in like massively. That's not going to sustain itself going forward. And one other thing that I wanted to bring in is investing. Whether you invest your time in your business, whether you invest your money in your business, whether you invest your social circles in your business, just invest in your business, because that is going to sustain your business going forward. And lastly, researching about other businesses, about what you're doing going forward, and what's out there in the world. Because if you don't know what's out there in the world, then you're gonna be lost. So you need to research. And yeah, that's Lesetja Mokou from Litmog, and I'm your business development executive.
Love that, love that, love that. Yes, researching, so important, because yeah, the world changes at a super fast pace. So if you're not keeping, I don't even attempt to keep up, but when I need something, I know I need to go research it to see what the best practices are out there, what the best systems are out there. So, so important. I want to quickly shout out to all the people watching us live on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love it, love it, love it. And the conversation is amazing over there. Carolyn, what are your best practices? Oh no, she froze. I love technology.
Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, I completely agree with Brian about the, connecting with yourself first. You hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Your screen is froze, but I can hear you.
All right. All right, great. So, yeah, but what I
It looks like it was the remix. I'm pretty sure she will join us again. I happen to know that her Wi-Fi is quite unstable. So let's see if we can actually get her back in again. Yes. Okay. Carolyn, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Sorry. Okay. So, yeah, what I want to add is that, in my opinion, in order for things to be sustainable, everything has to start on the inside. So I always out from there. So that was what I wanted to bring.
Absolutely love it. I think these conversations are actually so important to have. They may seem menial, like they're small conversations, but they make the hugest impact on one's business when you're actually starting your business, or if you're a couple of years into your business and you've realized, oops, there are certain things that I actually haven't put in place, that if I had actually put them in place, I may have already been sustainable. Whereas I might be currently battling because I didn't do those things when I started, because I didn't know that I had to. So I'm absolutely loving this conversation. Mr. Hendrik, you want to jump back into the conversation?
I was just thinking it sparked something. I mean, both Carolyn and Brian said about, starting inward. And it is true. And just, by the way, I'm doing Deepak Chopra's 21 days of abundance manifestation meditation series, because it's true, it comes from within. It comes from, and now I'm speaking as a hypnotherapist, comes from your imagination. If whatever you create starts with a spark in your brain, that has a chain reaction, and you decide whether you want to allow it or not. Those choices are yours to make, and how far can you take it? And therefore, you have to look after your inside, and you have to nurture the magic that is within us, all of us, the magic to create. Yeah, so it just sparked that with me. And like, if you can do that, then, make it abundant and keep it sustainable into the future. Why not? By now, I'm Hendrik, Baird Media. I think so.
I love that. I love that, Hendrik. Yeah, it does start with the spark of an idea, and it's how you flame the flame is how far it goes and how far it takes off. So I love that. And it does help when you have amazing people like the tribe to help keep flaming the fire, to keep the fire going. I know in my little over a year and being in the tribe that, yeah, there's definitely some things that I'm like, yeah, no thanks. And then everybody's like, no, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Keep it up. Peter's one of those, like, nope, keep going. Megan's another one. Miss Megan, go ahead.
Thanks, Sondra. I just thought I'd pop back in here after Peter made that comment a minute ago, because I just heard the most interesting concept back the second I heard it, within the last week. The second I heard it, it was like, oh, that's what happens. So I was listening to someone's audio on LinkedIn, one of my people that I follow on LinkedIn, and they created this little audio. And their opening line was, has your business broken? Or is it busy breaking? And I went, hold on, let's tune into this one. And it's literally that space where you've built your business and you feel like you're ready to go, move forward, onboard clients, and suddenly the clients come and you've got no idea what to do. So you don't have an onboarding system, you don't have an invoicing system, you don't have anything that should be in place to be able to carry that. And so it just feels like everything you've built for however long is just like falling in on itself, right? And they discussed this on that audio as, this is the make or break. So how quickly can you get your system, simple system, in place to carry that lot of clientele through to start making your business sustainable? So I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was a really interesting concept. Actually, the first time I'd heard it, described in those terms. So look at it. Is your business breaking, or is your business going to be able to take the weight of that first or second client that walks through the door?
Yes, please, and thank you. Judge, jury, and execution are all in one space. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Just a reminder for those of you that are watching the show, everybody in this space has been part of this community. They've either been in this community for a long time and we have experience of each other. There are new people stepping into the community. But as individuals are actually talking and dropping their opinions, if it lines up with something that you're battling with, or if it lines up with something that you're struggling with at the time, their links are in the description. And these are the people to be speaking to. So if you are listening to the show and you can really relate to where Megan is at, well, then her link is in the description. Reach out and have a conversation. We do have a coffee first, business later mentality in this space. So here the people are. If you are battling, do yourself a favor, go into the description, grab the link of the person that you feel most comfortable having a conversation with. Nobody is going to try and sell you anything, because that's not what this space is about. This is about entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. So, and that's what the tribe is for. So you're welcome. We've put these people right in front of you for you and for us, because we're learning from each other at the same time. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add to this conversation? Going once, going twice.
Hendrik was looking for his hand.
He was looking for his hand. Let's go, Hendrik.
Just to remind everybody, Thursday is GOSN, Global Online Speed Networking, and 6 till 8, is it, if I'm right? If you don't have your ticket yet, go to the website exploreprotech.com and we'll see you there. It's great fun.
Awesome. Hendrik is remembering to advertise my event.
It was on my list. I hadn't got there. He beat me to the punch. It was on the list of announcements. Thank you, Hendrik. And yes, that is an open event. So get your ticket. We have what? 100, 150 people usually, Peter, from all over the world. By the way, I'm in the United States. So yeah, it's an international event. We have fun. It's a fun event. It is not your typical networking event by any means. So yeah, we have fun and get to know each other. It's definitely a relationship building one. So I do want to say about links, we need to give Susan a day or two to get all the links into the show notes. with her amazing timestamps. So thank you, Susan, for doing that in the background. But that does take a day or two. So definitely come back and watch the replay and grab those links once they're available. We usually put it on social media that it's available too. So thank you, Susan, for doing that. She does that, and she does some of our graphics. So grateful for her doing the behind the scene things so that we can be in the front. Takes a team and a system.
Awesome.
Anything else, Peter, before we wrap up? It's been an amazing conversation. I don't think I stopped smiling the whole entire time.
I think we can safely wrap up. But I think I might want to give the closing statement, and I think most of the people in the space know what the closing statement is. It generally comes out of the mouth of Nastine. But I think we should pick somebody to actually deliver it. So I just think, Megan, would you like to close us out of this space?
Thank you for joining us, everyone, and may your wildest entrepreneurial dreams come true. Done in Nastine style. Thank you.
All right, we'll see everybody next week. Have a great week. Oh, join us on Thursday. Bye.